Hey family, welcome to the Hub. Now, today I am so excited because I have one of my mastermind buddies, Keysha Chester, marriage success mentor, all the way from Texas. What's up, Keysha? How you doing, girl?
I am awesome. How are you? It is such a pleasure to be here with the ladies in your community, and thank you for having me on today.
Hey, no problem. So, Keysha specializes much of you who are stepping into the marriage realm, but I wanted to back it up, right? So, Keysha, you let me know that you started out as a single mom, and sometimes that can be, tagged as a liability versus an asset, So I would love to know, like, how did you get past the single mom title to really embrace and begin dating? I'd love to know what that looked like for you.
At first, I was doing it quite wrong for for a very long time, and so I would be out here, I would meet the guys, and so one thing I was very intentional about was making sure, especially because I have a daughter, so I would get to know the guys, but there's a bit of a stigma, you're a single mom, so you've already had a baby, so like, why are you coming with these standards all of a sudden? And so it took a minute for me. I was losing at the game because I thought that that was all I had, that I was already at a loss, and that I didn't deserve better, and I wasn't allowed to have standards, and I didn't have to carry this weight and this stereotype that other men had for me. And so it was kind of a epiphany for me in the dating scene when I realized that I've always struggled with asking people for money for men. And I was a single mom. I was putting myself through college. My daughter's father wasn't helping me out financially. So that kind of became a issue. But I noticed, like, we're having these visits and these adult times together, but you're not helping me out financially as a person, not even as far as having a relationship with my daughter. You don't even see me. You don't even care enough to say, even if I didn't ask you for anything, you didn't care enough. So I had to have the moment to say, well, if you don't care enough about me to see me that way, and I don't feel comfortable asking you for money, then why do I feel comfortable engaging in these adult activities with you?
Right.
So I know what I can do. I can close up this shop.
Hey, clank, clank.
But what I can honestly say, it was during that season when I closed up shop, was when I started getting some clarity, and I started setting some standards for myself for who I wanted as a husband. And so I didn't have a long list. Some of the stuff I didn't have enough sense to even put on the list. But some of the things that I did put on the list is that I did want my husband to be a Christian. I did want him to have a sense of humor, and I wanted him to be able to love my daughter as his own.
Beautiful.
And from that, and what I can say was interesting. So my husband and I, we've been married 23 years. Nice. So we did meet prior to both of us having children, but when we came back, we both had kids at that point. But it was just because we knew each other didn't mean it was necessarily a smooth transition. And so, but those standards really mattered. So we took some time. It was a long distance relationship at first. So it wasn't so much of an issue of me introducing him to my daughter, but I did take time to get to know him again, to see where his heart was, what his intentions were. And then all of that had to be known and understood before I brought him into this relationship with my daughter, because my daughter's father wasn't there for her. So she was very tenderhearted. So once we got to the point of saying that we were going to get married, such a sweet story from her, because her father hadn't been there. When I told her we were getting married, her first response was, "Can I call him daddy?" Oh. That is an old moment, but that's also a very vulnerable and if not handled appropriately, and you're not aligning yourself with the right person. My daughter was very open to if I really didn't do a good job of screening, having had a different type of story.
So how did you trust? Because I know for many single moms, there's a fear there. right? To bring a man into the home, especially if you have a daughter, like, yo, how did you decide to trust this man that you now call your husband? Mm-hmm.
You want the like off the script type of, or like the professional answer?
No professional. Just give it to us real, girl.
I will stab you where you stand if you hurt my daughter. And so we have to have an opportunity to get to know each other better, to know I mean what I said. Mm-hmm. Like I'm serious about that. But I also know, so he had a daughter, and then so I just seeing our conversation and how he was in regards to his own daughter. Yeah. And then so I don't share all this a lot, but now that I'm getting out here in these relationships spaces, I will share. So, I did suffer sexual trauma myself as a child. So I'm very much aware that it's a thing. Right. I know that a lot of my friends and other women that I counsel, that's a thing too. Mm-hmm. And then so I can say also, even after we got married, but that was just kind of how I was raised with my grandmother. Like my daughter was 4 or 5 when we moved to Virginia. So we're past that stage of interacting as far as, we're not changing diapers, we're not changing clothes. Like I watch how you move around her, but you're not at that stage where, I mean, she's old enough to talk. And I had conversations with my daughter as well. I always kept a watchful eye, and I set expectations as far as my husband was concerned, but it was never an issue because he never moved in a way that led me for me to have to like set really hard standards. Right. If that makes any sense. I could tell from his character because I could see how he was with his own daughter. And again, I'll stab you where you stand.
At the end of the day, understand that the threats are intact. Okay, I love it. I love it. So understanding the character of who he is and observing. So instead of doing long drawn out contracts and rules, you just saw how he flowed, and you also had conversations with your daughter. That is simply beautiful. Oh my goodness.
You have to judge a man by his fruit.
Mm-hmm.
He can say whatever he wants to say, but you have to judge him by his fruit. Because, I mean, statistically speaking, unfortunately, the majority of women who suffer, men and women who suffer sexual trauma as children, it comes from someone that you know, someone who had access to the children. So it is very important to be intentional about screening the person that you allow to be around your child.
Yeah, it's not a game. Okay, so now when you came together, so now you're long distance, how did you close the gap? What did that look like? Because so many people are anti long distance because they're like, Coach Cass, I don't have time for that. I'm not moving. So how did you guys even flourish in a relationship, and what closed the gap for you?
It was kind of easy for me. I was at a crossroads in my life. I joined the military initially out of high school. So I went to college later. I was a non-traditional student. And so by the time when I was moving to Virginia, it was actually after I graduated from college. So it was a perfect transition time for me to move to begin working on a new career and a new life together. So, and we had been talking about it and putting some systems into place. It wasn't the easiest of transitions because I was not married before, but my husband had been married before. And so it was more difficult making that transition with his ex-wife and his daughter and stepdaughter than it was with my situation. So my daughter's father wasn't really involved in her life. So I didn't have to get his permission about anything or share anything with him, but it was different over there. And so as we began to blend the families together, the pushback, or one of the things that made it difficult was from his ex-wife, because she had some concerns that I was coming in to take her place. Or that I wouldn't allow her children. She would say like, my kids are still gonna come over there. And I'm like, okay. Well, I had no intentions of them not coming over here, but all right then, so I agree to be on this team of us having the maturity of looking out for what's in the best interest of the children, for my children and for his daughter. And even so, because he had a stepdaughter from the previous relationship. And that's one of the things how I was able to kind of test his character. When we were talking about blending the families, he said that his stepdaughter was still a part of the package too. So the fact that you're not walking away from your stepdaughter, even though you and her mother are not going to be together, is another indication of your commitment and the type of man that you are.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you telling me right now, one for you, one for him, and then another one from her, and then y'all had one together too?
We call it, we're the super blended family.
Oh my goodness. Is it all girls?
All girls.
Oh, snap. All that estrogen. Hallelujah. Tell me you got a boy dog or something.
No, for a while we joked with the youngest one, like we just treated like a boy. We thought she was gonna be a boy, but no, I had high hopes, but no, all girls, and we are very thankful for them. We have grown a lot as a result of them, and I can say that how you move as a stepmom, if you were to find yourself in a situation, it's tough, but the reward you just never really know. So the daughter who is my husband's stepdaughter, we're actually talking about her son coming to spend maybe a week or so with us for the summer. Oh. And so my biological daughters don't have children. Even my husband's daughter, the only one who has children is the stepdaughter. And then so we're the grand something. But we're here for it. At the end of the day, we're still family. After, it'll be 23 years. And so altogether, I think we've been together about 25 years. We're still family.
Wow. So do you also get together with the ex-wife? She said, now you reach it, Coach Casss, you reach it? Okay.
I genuinely did. You know what? I think that's important. I'm glad you kind of brought that up. I think people who get involved in blended families need to be mindful of what success looks like. And every blended family is not going to look the same. So some people have aspirations of, we're all going to be BFFs and we're going to go get manis and petties and everything together like that. I guess some people that may be a thing for them, but I think that it's okay if that doesn't end up being a thing for you. And that was not an aspiration. That wasn't something that I was looking forward to. Right. I did want it because the girls were kind of similar in age. I did want us to be friendlier with each other. Right. If it had gotten to the point where, because her daughters would come to my house, maybe we would get to the relationship where my daughter might go over there, whatever the case may happen to be. We never got to that point. But at the end of the day, I also understood her hurt and what she was going through to an extent. And so, but we did get to the point where, and then if you're getting into a blended family, like you just never know how this thing works out. We end up getting custody of my stepdaughter. And then, so it was, you sign up and you think, you have to be mindful of like, oh, well, she'll just be over there and we'll just have to see her for the summers, whatever. That's not always true. So when you sign up for it, say, check all the boxes, like, now, how could this go to the left?
It just might.
Because it just might.
Okay, so I'll tell you this. I just had a family vacation in Mexico where I had my dad, my stepmom, my biological mom, my grandma, my husband's mom, his aunt. You know what I mean? Like we call them the old people, and it's all like they all come in like a little package with a little bundle. And I also had a couple that joined us. That's like two of my greatest friends, and they said, "How does this happen?" Right? Like, how is it that your mother, stepmom, and your daddy could come together for a week? And like the ladies were all hanging out by the beach, and chilling. So they were like, was it always like that? No, so it got to that point just because we don't have that much of a big family to be having 7 different events, like, so for the holidays, I'm not trying to go to your 2-person household and your 1-person household. So we just gonna bring this together at my house. And this is where we're having dinner. You're invited, so that's kind of something that we have been very intentional about in my family. It's like, look, we're all together and we all care about each other. So it's worked out like that for us in terms of being, I guess, a product of a blended atmosphere. My husband did not have any kids. We have 1 child together, and it's been beautiful, but we have been, one thing my husband often says, so also coming into, who you marry, is that my mom and grandma, we Jamaican, when they come to visit, they come to visit for a while, and what's cool is that my husband has no issue with it, because that's just like the Caribbean culture. It's like, all right, the relatives are here. When they
Right.
live in, we don't ask questions like that. You know, it's just like, who's feeding who? And it's a beautiful thing. And he keeps saying, like, we are very lucky that we married each other, because not everybody's down for mama and grandma to come hang out for a couple of weeks at your house.
Right.
With your
Absolutely.
face looking in your face, you know. So I think that's also a part of it, to understand the dynamics of what does family look like to you, and who comes in and who doesn't. And I remember this being a very strong conversation, because he grew up in a household where anybody could come stay. You know, like his mom would take in like strays, like, oh, the person selling the magazines at the front door. Like, yeah, come hang out, live with us. I'm like, look, we're not that family. Okay. I understand
Right.
that you grew up with that, but we're not taking in strays out here. We could donate to the stray cause, but we're not taking them into the house. We got a little girl. That's not gonna work out.
Right.
So I think a part of that package deal that you were talking about is understanding who you're with, what they value, and can you guys align?
Yeah. And I would like to say, after all these years, so my husband's ex-wife, for a season, I used to call her my ex-wife. It was kind of tough. But we, after, their daughter came to live with us or whatever, we don't have a friendship, but we are, and we were long distance, very long distance. So she's all the way on the East Coast, I'm all the way over here. So I don't know what our relationship would have been like if we had been in the same city or whatever else the case may happen to be. But I can say, we've hugged once. So
Ain't nobody shaming you, Keysha. You good girl. Listen, you took our whole daughter in, okay?
But I'm saying we got to a point where I think she understood I had no ill intent for her child. Yeah. And when I welcomed her daughter into our home, and so, I mean, you're a mom, even though if you're not a stepmom, but moms do most of the work with the kids on the day to day. So when you sent your child here, you didn't send your child here just to your husband. You sent your child here to me too. I didn't mistreat your child. I treated your child like my own. Your child will tell you the same thing. And I think that helped in regards to whatever level of relationship we have now. So if like she's talking to her mom on the phone, her mom will say, well, tell us hello, or whatever else the case may happen to be. So, I mean, it's what we made of it, but no one's angry with anyone at all. We just, it didn't work out. Like in my mind, I thought it would have been a lot better than this, but but it's not a bad situation where we are. And I think that people just need to understand that success looks different, and don't compare your relationship to any other relationship, because everyone's blended family journey is unique.
It is. Yeah. So you had me think about something else. I call my stepmom mom, and I call my mom mom. And my mom will say, how's your mom? So it's pretty cool, because from the age of 3, I went to stay with my dad, my stepmom, and then we did summers and all that stuff. So, like, she's been a part of my life, and I'm very grateful, because I don't know, I feel like stepmom gets it easy, kind of like grandma, like you don't have to do the big discipline, because that's the parents' job. So then you get to be that like person that loves extra without all the parentals. Yeah, like you might reprimand, but you don't have to go in, because there's other people that take care of that. So for me, we have a very tender relationship that's pretty cool. I remember when I got my period for the first time, stepmom lived in Florida, I lived in New York. I called my stepmom to tell her, like, that's the relationship that we had. So, for anyone listening, like, don't discount your role as a stepmom, end up being one, because it is very special.
It is. And I would also say, and I thought about doing a video myself, and what's in a name, because interestingly enough, because the situation with my husband's ex-wife was so when we first got started, like I didn't come up with any name. I'm Keysha. So I don't want to be no problem. I'm just Keysha. You have a mother, that's your mother. And from that perspective, and sometimes it would bother me to an extent, and I might tell my husband, like, you're my daughter's dad, I'm your daughter's Keysha. It's not quite the same. But what I can say is that, again, what's in a name? So I talk to them sometimes more than they, talk to their dad, but we had this girl thing kind of going on, or whatever else the case may happen to be. But it wasn't the name that established the relationship. The name, the relationship didn't, begin and end with whether or not you call me Miss Keysha, Mama Keysha, whatever else case may happen to be. I earned the relationship that I have with them based on my actions, and no title could by itself could have gotten me there.
All right, so let's talk about that. What did you do to win over your stepdaughter? do you remember some intentional things that you did? Because that is a scary thing to start a relationship with a child when you're trying to get with her daddy, right? So it's like, all right, so I know I gotta hang out with you, so how did you, what were some intentional things that you did with the girls to say, you know what, I like her, or you like each other? Like, did you do anything?
I think one of the things that made it easy back then was when we had the youngest one. And so she was kind of the glue that brought everyone together. So it was like, ooh, a little baby, she's so cute, or whatever. So that was kind of easy from that perspective. My daughter and my husband's daughter are only about 9 months apart. So whatever I did with the one, we were kind of like just all together as far as that was concerned. They would come for the summers. We did family vacations together. When the oldest one kind of started distancing herself when she got to be a teenager, as they do, so we weren't seeing her as often. But when when my bonus daughter, the one from that we ended up getting custody from, I would be very intentional about just checking in with her. It was interesting. I was in Walmart years ago. I need to see if I can find the book. I don't know what happened to it, but there was a book, and the title of the book was Keysha's Drama. And Keysha was spelled the way my name is spelled, which is very rare to even find it from that perspective. And it happened to be about a little girl named Keysha and the problem she was having with her stepmom. And so I bought the book and I gave it to my daughter and I said, hey, read this. Cause I read it first. I said, read this and let me know if you feel like any of this is going on. And so we would have those types of conversations. And so never at any point in time, I mean, they didn't always, I mean, we were, between our household and my husband's ex, we were the more disciplined household, the more structured household. So she didn't always love being here because we kind of had more rules from that perspective. But as she and her sister have both matured, and I was just having a conversation with the oldest one, and they appreciated the discipline that we provided, the structure that we provided. And even she was saying that, how her life might have been different had she come to live with us, which we were open to that too. It just were some other, but we have no legal rights there. Yeah. But we were open to that as well. But just being intentional and having those conversations and checking in. And I'm not going to say that, it was perfection all the time, because she was a child. We've shared this story before. Like, I remember one time, because it wasn't always a perfect relationship. Like, sometimes she wouldn't tell me happy birthday or happy Mother's Day or whatever. And one time we were riding home. She's like, hey, can you stop by the store to take me, go buy a car for my mother for her birthday? You don't buy me no car for my birthday. I take you home, your daddy take you, go let you buy a car for your mom for her birthday. But she remembers that. But we've come back and had those conversations. But it is about having the relationship. And so I also recognize that some of the things she did that was somewhat hurtful to me, because children can be hurtful too. I don't believe that she necessarily had ill intent to try to hurt me. Some of it was maybe, just like you said, I am with her dad. And so maybe it was some of that, especially as she got to be a teenager. I am not only am I with her dad, her mother and father. So she was raised with her mother and father in the house for a season. So she knows what it was like for them to be together. So I just had to be the mature person in that situation, and just continue to love on her, and and I make myself available. You can't force the relationship, but over time, I did my best to keep my hands clean. And so nobody can say that I was disrespectful, I was hateful, I was unforgiving or anything like that. And I moved, even in regards to when times were difficult with his ex-wife, I knew that I had to move in such a way where if I moved wrong with their mom, it would end up being a problem with their relationship. So I couldn't, even when I wanted to maybe be different, I couldn't afford to be different, because the implications were going to be bigger than just me being different with their mom.
Right. So this is you telling people to be a grown woman and do right.
That's absolutely. But the reward is great. The reward is great. Again, our biological daughters don't have children. So the grandchildren that we have are coming from the bonus stepdaughter.
Yeah.
I have a grand dog, but she's a girl too.
Man, Keysha, this has been great. So how can people find you on social media?
So a couple of places. So my Instagram is at Keysha Chester. For the most part, we're transitioning over to doing premarital. So we're kind of getting that built up. I do have my private Facebook group. So even if you're not married, the space is for married women. So if you happen to know any married women, you can send them to the Wife College, which is on Facebook. And then so again, we're in the process of building out the premarital and kind of first year marriage mentoring. After Coach Casss gets you straight and you ready, then there are some other steps, because we're helping, in her space, she's helping you to figure out who. Then you're going to have to transition over to mentoring so you can figure out how.
Premarital, I believe, is one of the most important steps on the road to marriage. And when folks skip this step, I feel that you end up in real problems. The right premarital class tries to break you up, period. You get to talk about some things that you might not have talked about before. And even if you review the things, I think it's a very intentional process that says we're here to set up a marriage and not just a wedding date. And that's a whole nother podcast. But I really, most of the time, we could skip the wedding date and just get to the marriage, because listen, we need, the marriage is the lifetime, right? We want to build something long lasting. So this is what Keysha and her husband do. They do premarital. In terms of your first year, that is one of the most important years of your entire marriage, because you are setting the tone for the rest of your life. So don't mess around with it, y'all.
Yeah, and we didn't do premarital counseling. And I like to tell people, and it's a true story, I wanted a divorce on day 6.
Whoa.
On day 6. But one of the things that mattered was we were committed. And so kind of something you were saying before, and I think, and it was an old book from Patti LaBelle called Patty's Pearls. But she said, sometimes it's better to want something you don't have than to have something you don't want. So you can keep that one. So at the end of the day, people say they want to be married, but marriage is work. And then, so if marriage wasn't work, then married people wouldn't be trying to get divorces. But it's a beautiful thing when it is done appropriately.
Right. Exactly. So make sure y'all follow Keysha. Make sure that you share this podcast episode. And in the meantime, in between time, keep loving, keep laughing, keep living. Bye, guys.
Bye. Nice meeting you guys.